Here's David Donovan, Vice President, Sapient Global Markets.
There are three things I would like to speak about today that the buy side needs to be concerned with in trading derivatives post-Lehman crisis. The first is that there needs to be two market prices when pricing derivatives. The buy side also has to have a good understanding of dealer costs and credit funding. And the third is that buy side needs to develop the most efficient collateral optimization model possible. By understanding these issues, the buy side can manage their operations more effectively, limit the drag on return, and actually increase and maximize their alpha generation. Since the financial crisis of 2008, regulators have put an increased focus on collateral and counterparty credit. Buy-side firms have had tremendous difficulty matching dealer quotes regarding their derivative positions. This is because dealer mark trades with CVA and DVA, which account for the dealer's credit and funding costs as well as the client's. Although buy-side clients can observe initial CVA charges at inception, by comparing dealer quotes to market quotes, this shortcut is not available as the trade seasons. Creditworthiness does change over time, which affects valuation. At the moment, this is not being accounted for on the buy side in its performance attribution. The practical implication is that buy side must understand which curves and models are used on the dealer side in order to reconcile prices. The solution to derivatives pricing is that the buy side should have two prices, a market price and a dealer price. The market price will help the buy side generate alpha regarding portfolio attribution. The dealer price will help reduce collateral dispute. The market price used in return and performance attribution, this is independent of current counterparty and reflects the ability of the buy side client to unwind the trade on the open market. It is independent of the client's own funding considerations, but accounts for an objective view of client credit risk. Note that performance attribution should account for changes in the client's credit. This is an opportunity to capture return, much as the dealers use CVA in their own earnings. A dealer price is used to reconcile dealer collateral calls. This includes the dealer perspective on funding and credit costs, as well as the buy side's own perception on its client credit. This price is discounted on a curve, including funding costs as well as CVA and DVA of the client's counterparty. By adopting these two pricing approaches, collateral disputes will be minimized, and the buy side will be able to generate alpha and performance attribution. Let me talk about multiple trade pricing and the challenges ahead. Market price valuation is non-trivial, as clients must obtain real-time market data which would allow them to deduce a composite objective approximation of CVA, DVA, independent of their dealer counterparty. Different techniques can be used to measure dealer and client risk. For example, a standardized curve, like an OIS curve.
OIS stands for Overnight Index Swap. The OIS curve is now the standard measurement used to reconcile funding costs between swap dealers and their counterparties. These graphs illustrate why the OIS curve is the most accurate reflection of dealer funding costs. In this pre-Lehman graph, you can clearly see a tight correlation between the OIS curve and the 3-month LIBOR curve. Pre-Lehman, dealers did not take into account counterparty credit default risk. In this graph, post-Lehman, you see a more accurate reflection of dealer funding cost. The gap between curves reflect the potential for counterparty default risk.
Let's talk about increased spreads. In a centralized clearing model, both the dealer and the counterparty will be required to post initial margin. For the buy side, as more swaps are centrally cleared, there is the potential for a negative impact to portfolio alpha. This is because the dealer will have to post initial margin in a cleared environment, which was previously unnecessary in a bilateral environment. As initial margin ties up capital, the cost of funding will be passed on to the counterparty of this transaction. In a centrally cleared environment, the buy side needs to be aware that the dealer will try to pass on the initial margin requirement onto their funding costs, and this will ultimately have a drag on alpha.
For more information, contact David Donovan, Vice President, Sapient Global Markets.